Many are saying this is the greatest St. Patrick's Day celebration of all time.
I've heard that.
Because, A, we're at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint. B, Ohio State started spring practice day. C, everything else that goes along with this holiday. How do you beat it? That's Justin Zwick, Bill Landis, and Nicole Cox. Spring football's here, Nicole.
Yeah. I was just noticing, where's your green?
I was just going to say, he has no green on today.
You don't either?
I do too, my parents.
Oh, yeah.
You should pinch him.
I know.
And Bill, I think.
My jacket's green.
All right, I'll let that
He's
slide.
got green on his tattoo.
He does.
There you go.
Permanent green.
He's always covered.
Okay.
I had to go work. I had to be professional. I'll throw some green on later, Nicole.
Okay, I hope. Liberty, I think, would be disappointed.
She's already been disappointed because she thought that the leprechaun was going to visit our house and cause mischief because that was unfortunately something we had done in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bad precedent to
And
start.
there's some things that you can continue and some things she's like getting up at 7:20 in the morning. She's like, I'm glad you're awake, Dad, so you can come downstairs and we can see what the leprechaun did. And I'm like, St. Patrick's Day is all day long. I don't know if there's been a leprechaun here.
I know. I feel like the leprechaun was super busy this year.
There's a lot to do because the leprechaun wanted to get to the Woody Hayes Athletics.
Yes. Yes.
I had to get to practice.
There was a moment, Nicole. So Ryan Day is giving us a post-practice update in the team room. He was talking about this. And Sonny Styles had mentioned it to Burnham and I last week that they had a meeting after the championship. They don't usually get to have a champions meeting because you don't always win your last game and everyone then disperses afterwards. But because of the celebration, the team is there. So once you progressively move to the front of the room, Jay-Z knows how this works. You have assigned seats in that team room. And then the seniors like, well, you're going to have to leave these seats now. They don't belong to you. And everybody else moved one row down. And it was like this new, unique ceremony that they get to do to pass the baton leadership. And I thought, you know who's going to like hearing that?
Oh,
Nicole
my
Cox.
gosh. I love it. I love that. How awesome.
But the other part of that is the guys at the front of the room, and Ryan Day, he was pointing to where they were standing, said, that's the standard.
Yeah.
So
let's go.
A little bit of a balancing act of like a tear-jerking moment and standard being the standard.
But I do agree with the standard in that sense. I do. Like, that's what you're working up to be. You're just not – I don't know. I do agree with it there.
So if
because
they
those
don't win a
guys
national championship next year, they did not
yeah,
get the standard.
You guys that –
Man, you and Bobby are tough.
No. I don't believe in that one.
Not going as far
now,
as
should
that.
that be our goal? Yes, that should be our goal. Is that the standard? No, that is top tier.
I think the standard in that situation can be how these seniors led. Yeah. How they were a part of the program for so long. The way they carried themselves in and out or on and off of the field. I think that's the standard.
That's automatically what I thought we were discussing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just had to throw that national championship in there for you.
Yes. I mean, yes. And they were a great group of leaders. And so I think that these guys had some great guys to look up to. And I really believe that they are going to reach that standard of being that for these newer guys.
Bill, it was weird that that group of leaders and those seniors who just used to go out there on the first day of spring practice, like, well, there's Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Cody Simon and Emeka Ibuka and Travion Henderson. And you go in, it's like, they're gone. Here we go.
Yeah,
this is real now.
Yeah, it was pretty jarring. There was some stuff written about Ohio State during its playoff run that something to the effect of like this will be like the last team we see like this. But they were coming at it from the standpoint of how much talent Ohio State had. But I think it might be more like just like how long those guys were around, like how old they were. There were so many stalwarts on that team last year that when you walked out there, especially when we walk out, the defensive line's usually right there. So you see 33 and 44, and you're like, this is familiar. And they were not there, and it was noticeable right away. I think there might be a different 33 out there. There's not a 44 out there, I think, on defense at the moment. So it was a reminder of the shoes that Ohio State needs to fill. It's not just those guys on the defensive line. It's Emeka Ibuka. Travion Henderson was doing some workout stuff after practice as he gets ready for the NFL. There's a ton of talent there for sure, but that leadership piece I think is going to be fascinating this spring, how they choose to cultivate that and who steps up. Sonny Styles is obviously a clear one, and there's a couple others, but they're going to need more than a handful because they lost about 8 or 9 or 10 of those guys with the team that just walked out the door. So it's going to be a huge part of what they do this spring.
Yeah, G. Scott was out there. Travion Henderson was out there. Tyleik Williams, they were watching practice, working out. It's like that's just
how many
scratching
they
the
had?
surface.
15 guys?
15 guys at the combine, and G. Scott wasn't even one of them.
Yeah, that's insane. Was Fryer one of them?
Fryer and
he didn't
G.
get to
Scott
the
did not
combine.
get invited, so that's
That blew my mind when I heard that.
Yeah.
I almost couldn't believe that somebody who had started at Ohio State at a high level for 2 years,
First team all Big
2
Ten,
years,
2 years
it doesn't even make it to the combine. Blew my mind. But it's kind of, I guess our sophomore year we kind of went through the same thing because we had that huge senior class with Krenzel and Jenkins and all, Will Smith, Darian Scott. You had all that experience, that leadership, just poof.
Yeah.
David Copperfield, as Schlegel would say. It was gone. And, I can kind of remember that first meeting of getting into our position groups where it's like, this room looks a little different now. Because, we had Craig, Scotty McMullen, we had, a bunch of older receivers, and it's just like, all right, it's me, Troy, Santonio, some, just guys in our class. It's like, wow, this is kind of different. This is our team now. And it kind of hits you because it's, you're so used to going through so much, and especially when guys are seniors, fourth or fifth year, they've just been there for so long. Like you guys talk about, like walking out to practice, not seeing that number there, or just you're used to that over all the years. Same thing in meeting rooms and in your position groups when you're lifting, all that. It's a different feel. But it's like, all right, it's real now. And then now they're putting on helmets and they're going out to practice, and they'll figure it out. But it's definitely kind of one of those moments where you're just like, okay, this is kind of what I've been wanting, because I want to get on the field and I want to play, but it's real now.
Yeah.
And so it's it's good for them to do that, but I'm sure they're all excited to get out there today and wear some helmets.
So you have those moments, Jay-Z, where okay, there's a meeting, then maybe in your position units, like, well, it's a different vibe. Workouts, it's different. These guys need to step up. When you get to the first day of spring practice, then what is that realization like?
I mean, you're still kind of going through it. I remember doing like workouts and stuff. And you always had somebody who counted you down, or like the upperclassmen kind of leading the group, and it's like you get to a point where it's like, all right, who's gonna be, now Nuge was a senior after those guys had left, Dustin Fox, Simon Frazier, so we had some guys that had some experience, that they were starters, and so they kind of took that role. You don't usually, I guess, see a kicker take that kind of role, but Nuge was a special kind of guy, 1,000%. So I mean, it was there is that though, because it's all right, I don't want to overstep, but I'm used to this, at the high school level or whatever. I've always been doing this kind of thing. I took a step back because I was on the bottom of the totem pole, but you just getting in lines, who's going to be the like I saw the clips, Julian's taking that first snap, but that kind of stuff is like, all right, how are we going to do this? And I'm sure they talked to the players about it before going out, like, this is going to be our lineup. This is where people are at. Maybe they didn't do that so much back in my day. It was just kind of like,
Get in line.
throw an elbow, get the first one in line, and then all of a sudden you have that going on. But it's just a different feel. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're excited, and it's their team now, and watching that experience leave the room in a way, that just, you saw what they did and what they were able to do and overcome, and you hope you learned and learned a lot from those guys, and can put that into this team, because they're going to go through some of the same stuff.
They did, whether that was Ryan Day or Billy Fessel or Brian Hartline, or just like the way it worked out. Bill, it's like, maybe it's just my journey of self-improvement covering quarterback battles. Like Julian Sayin did go first, and then when they went to the team period, Lincoln Kanoholtz went first. So it's like, I've always loved to just like leap to those conclusions, and a lot of times they're right based on who's getting those snaps first and who's leading the line, but they both got a chance to do that, and I bet that rolling continues, Bill.
I bet it does. It happened at safety, too, because I was watching individual drills at one point, and the first two safeties through their line were Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain. And I was like, all right, here we go. It's Jalen McClain's time. And then they went through a team period where they just kind of lined up in the 11-man shell of a defense, and it was Malik Hartford instead of Jalen McClain. So it's like, all right, I guess nothing gets decided on the first day.
First day of spring
which
ball.
was a nice reminder. So there's going to be some rolling at multiple positions.
I felt like they did this to us last year, guys, until like pretty much right before, right?
Yeah.
Right before season started.
And
For the
Because you had
quarterback.
Devin at quarterback.
at
so,
quarterback,
Yeah.
they let him do that, and I think, I don't even think it's new. You make a great point, Nicole, and it's a great reminder. We've seen that before. We've seen that with all the way back with Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, that they mix it around. They do that rotation so that they have opportunities with the ones and twos and threes, and it does help level out the playing field. I think Jay-Z is probably in some ways jealous of that. I won't speak for him.
Yeah, well, I would have liked to have known where I stood at times, yeah.
But it's like, but we always want an answer right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't even happen a year ago with Will Howard, and Ryan Day talked about that process with the quarterbacks as well. It's like On this day a year ago, did Will Howard look like he was going to go win a national championship for Ohio State? No, he didn't.
You don't think?
No.
Okay.
So, that's not that wasn't to say that I didn't think he could, but he did not have remember those days, Student Appreciation Day, you were out there. It was like,
well, and he was brand new to the team.
Yeah.
So
and that's the case for all three of these guys now.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah,
even though Lincoln Kienholz is going into his third year in the program, Julian Sayin has had 12 months. The situation's not going to be the same, and it's going to take some time for them to work through this.
I agree. I do think it's good though that they've at least been on the team with the other players, just to kind of just take in how everything works, how they work together. I think that's a big part of just the process in itself. So
Yeah, I think Will was probably going through a little bit of that last year. Just, all right, I'm the new guy here.
because he came in,
I'm used. He would have come in January.
January,
So he's used to Kansas State and how they kind of run their program, how things kind of happen there. I think I'm sure they told him before his first practice, but all right, what's the cadence like around here? How are we doing this? How do we do checks? Just little things that you take for granted just because he was in a system for so long. So, he was taking some baby steps probably early on in spring ball last year. And that's going to happen. Now, even with these guys who have been in the system, they know that kind of stuff, but it's a little different when they're taking reps now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year you had Will Howard, who everybody figured was going to be the guy, came in for a reason. They probably didn't feel that pressure on every rep that they took like they're going to now, because everything they put on film is either going to be good for them or it's going to be bad for them. And everybody's going after that starting position. So, it does ramp things up a little bit.
Can I mention something?
Yeah.
Because JZ reminded me something about the cadence. I think for Ohio State, they say, I think it's white 80, they say before they snap the ball. When I was watching a little bit of the O-line, Tyler Bowen was doing the quarterback cadence, and I don't know that I've seen the O-line coach do that before.
Okay.
Usually it's just set hut and you go,
Mm.
but he was going through the entire quarterback cadence before the offensive linemen were getting into whatever drill they were doing, which I don't recall ever hearing Justin Fry or Greg Studrawa do that exactly, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I know, I like that.
Yeah.
See how much harder Bill works than I do.
You
Or how
guys,
much
you work as
smarter
a
he is,
team.
I don't know.
You work as a team, so you can see all the angles. Remember at Student Appreciation, I was having trouble. I was like, wait, I missed that because I was over here watching this, and that's everybody's got to watch their own spot.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot going on.
And then I just go steal Bill's notebook and pass off that information as my own. This thing that Jay-Z's talking about, we bring up leadership to start the show, plus a quarterback battle. It intersects there because Will Howard was so critical for that, Bill. I am fascinated to see how that plays out, because the practices, the if there's going to be ups and downs and growing pains and learning curve and all that, there's going to be, because they're doing this for the first time and there is more pressure on those reps. But it's the stuff that's maybe outside the lines with Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz primarily. Tavian St. Clair, I think people will maybe get mad if I leave them out. In terms of starting, it's got to come from those two guys. The way that they handle that part of taking ownership, accountability, leadership, vocal example, whatever, I think that's more important and more worthwhile to pay attention to over these now 14 more practices.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually think Will Howard offered us some important reminders about how to process that last year, because he had a presence about him, I think, really from the moment he showed up at Ohio State. And there was a lot of times throughout the year we said, Will, you're so good at this. Have you always been like this? He's like, no, when I was at Kansas State and I was young, I had no idea what I was doing. And I had self-doubt all the time, and I had to grow past that and grow from it. And now even Lincoln Kienholz is going into his third year of college. He has to do that too. Certainly Julian Sayin does, and definitely Tavian St. Clair, as they all figure out what exactly their voice is and how they want to carry themselves. I don't think they can just go into a quarterback meeting or an offensive meeting and do an impersonation of Will Howard and think that will be good enough for them. I think that's how you get yourself into trouble. So Will gave them, I think, a really good template for probably just how to be yourself, whatever that is. But there's no doubt about it that all three of those guys need to probably grow the most in that area throughout the spring. The physical stuff is what it is. And, even Ryan Day said on Monday that if they turn the ball over a little bit in spring practice, they're not going to bang their head against the wall doing that. You want to go through those mistakes and learn from them and not continue to make them. But it's the way they command the huddle, the way they set the tone from a work ethic standpoint that I think is going to be probably far more important than anything they do between the lines right now anyway. Once August comes, yes, you got to perform on the field. But right now you got to make the team your own. And that's hard, I think, when there's multiple guys vying for the starting job. I think most people would assume that it's going to be Julian Sayin, but I think he has to carry himself as if he's a starter, and so does Lincoln, and frankly, so does Tavian, even though he's very young. And I would imagine, I haven't done it, Jay-Z's done it, he can speak more to it than I can, but I would imagine that's tough to like walk the walk when you haven't been like anointed just yet. And so I think that'll be something that all three of those guys have to work through.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something that was hard. I remember, my sophomore year, there was it was a battle. We split things 50-50, one day practice here, next day practice there. And I got as far as to our off week when we got to go home to watch, the last day of camp, get to go home and watch your high school play type thing. That's when I found out. But I went through the entire camp of I don't know anything about what's going on, as far as this competition goes. I'm just trying to stack good days and, on top of each other. But it was also that, like I mentioned, like who's breaking down the huddle. I mean, just little silly things when you're not sure, because at a point you kind of just got to be that guy. Like, I don't care. I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
and, but that also can, create little rifts and little things like that throughout a team. So there's a fine line to walk. But it is tough because all these three quarterbacks we talked about were the man.
Yeah.
They're used to being the man, and that's just how it goes. And, when you're at a place like Ohio State, you expect your competition to be that same way. But how do you navigate that once you're out there on the field and it's not your team because you don't know what's going to happen, So, it's tough, and it can wear on you if you let it. Now, you talk about interceptions and, the stuff like that's going to happen. You just got to make sure you're learning from that, and you can only, control what you can control. And that's a hard thing to kind of just deal or learn, I guess, when you're used to being in control of the team. But right now you can only control what you can control. So if you do have a bad play, all right, the next day I don't make that same bad, and that's what Coach Day wants to see. All right, I don't care about that interception. This is why it happened. This is what you did, blah, blah, blah. Now don't do it again the next day.
Yeah.
Or, down the road. And that's what they're going to be looking for. These young kids are going to make mistakes. Even Lincoln, he's been there 3 years, but he's still relatively young. We've seen him in the Missouri game, I think, just because he had to play, So, yeah, exactly. So I think even he's going to be a little bit of the, what's going on here type thing. But they'll figure it out, and they got great coaches there. And, they're all talented as all get out. I remember seeing Lincoln throwing dunks down in basketball games. Like, the kid's crazy athletic. He has that confidence. They all do. But, how do they put that onto the team? It's the first day of practice. We'll kind of see how it goes. But I know they all have it in them.
Well, it's just one day, but we have to overreact to something.
Exactly.
That's the way it works.
I think he has a quick release, Julian saying. I've seen that online about a million times.
It's like he's flicking a dart out there.
It is kind of crazy.
It's pretty wild the way he does it. So we paid attention to the quarterbacks. That's where my focus always goes. Nicole, what are you most curious about? Who are you hoping to see Wednesday, day 2, Student Appreciation Day? Who would have your attention?
Well, obviously the quarterbacks. I'm anxious to kind of see, because that's what we were watching last year at this time.
Right.
And I don't know, I know CJ Hicks is now defensive end, and Sonny Styles is obviously back, and kind of, these are local guys, and that I don't know if we'll really be able to see how they are as a leader at Student Appreciation, but I'm anxious to see the coaches. I'm anxious to see, because we have a lot of new coaches, and I just want to see kind of how they are at practice and how the team is reacting to them. I just think that should be interesting, and hopefully I can gather that from just that practice. But, I don't know. There are just a lot of new coaches.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Nicole, because I think we approach this from there's so many new faces on the field for the players, and that's critical. They're the ones that are playing in between the lines, going to be on Saturdays. But I actually talked to some people after practice today, and they're like, well, this was new for a number of coaches as well. How you work together, where they're going to be. This is the first time they've done that together, and they actually had an opportunity, even though it's been a month with Matt Patricia, and they had a few mat drills. A lot of these coaches had chances to, whether it was spring break or, after the players got, let go for a little bit of time. They had some vacation that they don't usually get. So they haven't been together a ton to go work together on football stuff. They've been in the meetings. They've spent time together, but oh, this is where things happen over here, or Matt Patricia's running this. Here's how he wants this to look. Like, that's all new for them. It was a very, very first day of school vibe, not just for the players, but the staff as well.
I agree. And I just think imagine yourself in a job position where you work with your teammates, you work together every day for a couple years, and then you go and you're working with all new people. You've all never worked together fully. And so that's, I think, going to be, I mean, I have no doubt that they're going to be great, but I'm just anxious to see kind of how they're doing at, I guess, only a few weeks in. But
yeah, we put the emphasis on the players, but yeah, I mean, it's like you got coaches in new roles. How are they handling that? You know, I mean, different coaches working together with guys they had, you know, I guess they had met before, but some of them maybe never met Matt Patricia.
Yep.
You know, so you got a brand new guy coming in. I mean, that can be, I mean, it's going to work out fine.
It is.
But, you know, that's definitely something new. And, you know, how the players react. How does he coach versus how I used to get coached? You know, blah, blah, blah. You know, that sort of thing can really go, you know, it can be good to get that going now. That's why we have spring ball, I guess, right?
I think Coach Day is a great leader, though, and watching him do it when Chip Kelly came in. And I do feel he is going to be great about bringing everyone together. I think in the end, that was what led us to the national championship. So
yeah, and we saw Brian Hartline wearing that headset on Monday.
We did.
mm-hmm.
I thought I was going to say I felt like we heard him more, maybe, and maybe that's just because his role's different, and he was a little more kind of central to the action than he typically is.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely trying to wear both hats, like be the OC and call the plays, and then
Still get his
sprint
guys,
over and give
yeah.
a receiver a nugget, then sprint back to the middle of the field and call the play.
I'm overwhelmed just hearing
yeah,
that.
he's going to be pretty active this spring, and he's always been an energetic coach. But I thought even on Monday he had a different sort of noticeable energy about him with
I'm
this
excited
expanded
to
role.
see that.
Yeah, I am wondering if there's going to be a point for Brian Hartline where he's going to have to learn some of the same lessons that Ryan Day did, which is delegating. You have Devin Jordan there to help. I'm not saying that Brian Hartline should totally remove himself from wide receivers. That should probably never happen.
No.
Even if he is a head coach somewhere, he's going to need to be involved in that. That's his expertise. But if he's going to be this full-time head coach of the offense, which again will sound a little bit silly in a Ryan Day program, but if that's what he's trying to become and aspire to as the play caller as well, like he may have to give up some of that, because going and doing both jobs at the same time is a bit of what caused problems for Ryan Day.
Right, and I think Ryan will be able to kind of talk with him about
Sure.
that, right? Like, hey, listen, I got this job at, you know, I was a young guy, you know, first head coaching job. This is what I went through to where I'm at now. You know, I imagine can see the same kind of things going on with Brian. You still want to be that receiver coach, but listen, you are now the OC of this machine. So, you know, you got to let go a little bit. Hey, Devin's been here for, 3 years now, I think?
Yeah.
Kind of learning from Ryan and, you know, being that guy in that room. So, you know, it's probably really hard to, you know, put your baby down and just say, no, that's okay. I know Devin's got him, you know, but at some point, you know, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. You got a big job that, yes, you've had before, but you didn't, you know, you didn't call that many plays. It kind of got taken back a little bit early.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you're focused in the right direction. And I think he, like you said, he's an energetic guy. I think he's going to be fine, but I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of some growing pains there, just like realizing, I can't do both at the same level at the level I expect myself to do both of them at.
Yeah, the other thing you have to realize is that on a Tuesday at Roosters,
On a Tuesday,
you can show up for appetizer Tuesday, $3. This week, it's cheesy
Bacon
wedges, which is one of the most elite.
They
delivery.
smelled fantastic when they set them
cannot-
down. I was
Came
like,
out.
woo.
Jay-Z
said he was trying to lose weight this week.
Well, after
And then
tomorrow.
we brought out some cheesy.
After tomorrow, I'm doing a little fast this week,
You have
but
to celebrate on St. Patrick's Day today, and then you can come on appetizer Tuesday and get some
there you
cheesy
go.
bacon wedges.
$3. Put some spicy ranch on the side of that bad boy, and you are good to go.
You're absolutely right about that, partner.
March
Cool.
Madness starts
I was
this
gonna
week.
say-
Yeah.
There's no Ohio State basketball,
That's
left, although the
unfortunate.
women are hosting
Yes.
this weekend.
Did we not
but
make
what
the
are-
NIT either?
They declined the invitation to the Crown because I don't think there's a functional roster that would be ready at that point for
okay.
Ohio State. So their season is over,
All right.
but March Madness is underway.
Yes.
What is Roosters doing? There's no finer place in Columbus.
Golly, no.
I can see from where I'm sitting
We could watch 18
Yes.
different games right now.
7 screens from right here.
Yes, exactly, guys. And I just highly recommend getting here early on Thursday. It's always such a big day, my husband and his friends have gone to the Grove City location. They sit at M4 and M5, the tables, because I work there. For the
Do
last
they know that? They go in and say,
20
I need
years.
M4 and M5?
20
Well,
years. Wow.
I actually said the wrong tables, and I was talking to the GM. She was like, "It's M4 and M5." I was like, "Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense."
Well, that's nice
But
when you know the
20
GM has
years.
your table down like
20
every year.
I know. I mean,
That's
20
awesome.
years, and we have a lot of people that do that, which is so awesome, and it really adds to the excitement in here. So it'll be fun this upcoming Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. Did you fill out a bracket?
I did not
Okay.
yet. I need to do that. I got to talk to Bronson. We usually do it together,
Yeah.
and he hasn't said anything to me, because he's probably too cool now that
He's
giving
doing
me
his
a-
research.
Yeah,
We'll share it with you.
we'll have
later.
to do that tonight.
All right. That's all that's going on at Roosters?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. Good.
Love it.
Getting ready for Student Appreciation Day, though. So
Yes, I'm excited, guys. I love that day.
It'll be here before we know it.
it's
Mhm.
going to be awesome. Spring ball arrived before we knew it, too. So it's great that we got one in the bag. Berm is going to be in here in just a minute as we take a quick break at Roosters. Let Nicole Cox go about her day. It's St. Patrick's Day, and she's got the green, and I don't. But we're going to be right back at Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Welcome back. Second half of the show at Roosters on the opening day of spring football.
Yeah.
Berm, how did you celebrate?
Well, I went to an Ohio State football practice
Okay.
for a bit. Then I stood in the hallway. And we
Uh-huh.
did snap judgments.
Uh-huh.
Then I sat in the team room and ran a live stream of Ryan Day's press conference.
Okay.
Wow.
Then
Party
we
animal.
recorded the podcast
Jeez,
daily.
watch out for this
then,
guy.
Then we recorded the podcast daily for Tuesday.
What?
And then I edited that and got it ready for the online while you guys did the first segment of the live show at Roosters.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm here. And then I'm going to drive home.
Then what are you going to do?
Then I'm going to
A little wine.
No, then I'm going to start
Window.
texting recruits about their visit to
Oh.
Ohio State on Monday and preparing then for the recruits that are visiting on Wednesday.
What do you think was the most interesting thing you saw on Monday morning?
I don't know that nothing like, again, there's nothing that was like surprising really about this first setup or anything like that. I guess maybe I'm surprised by the fact that Ian Moore and Austin Siereveld are playing tackle and not Philip Daniels and Ethan Anioma, but I know that's probably because they're transfers and they don't want to have them out there first with, you have to earn your moment here at Ohio State. Those guys still have their black stripes, etc. So I guess that's probably it, especially Austin Siereveld, because I think there is a world where it's Carter Lowe or even Tegra Shabola out there more than Siereveld, who I think is like a natural fit at guard. Tegra has a little bit more length, and so I guess I'm surprised it wouldn't be him out there first, considering he played tackle in his first 2 years at Ohio State when they needed somebody out there. So that's probably the most surprising to me is the Siereveld experience from the moment he got to Ohio State to now is a surprise in a lot of ways, because even though he was a 4-star recruit down to Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, everyone thought he could be a good player. I don't know that anyone expected him to be this versatile and this impactful as he has been already. Maybe it's because he's actually secretly 36 years old.
That does help. I think it's like, is it a surprise? Yes and no. Every time Ohio State wants to add versatility, try guys in different positions, it seems like Austin Siereveld is always at the front of that line. And we think about the adversity and difficulty that they faced in training camp a year ago. It's like they showed up to practice like somebody needs to play left tackle, and it's like Austin Siereveld just basically just puts his hand up and slides out there. We'd seen
Well,
him.
he was the only one that's hand wasn't covered in pox.
True. That, again, all part of it. All goes together. But he pops out there at left tackle, and then I think Ohio State came away from thinking, well, that went way better than we thought. Maybe he has that potential, or at least as a backup option. And the way that last season transpired post-August, I think gives them even more incentive to be like, if you have to move somebody out there, Austin Siereveld has built up at least a baseline of some reps out there. They know that he's willing to do it. It seems like he can do it. I'm not saying that he's going to start out there, but we've spent a lot of time talking about maybe the post-April 12th need for Ohio State to add a tackle, and maybe they think they won't have to do that if they can cross-train and get Austin Siereveld out there and Ian Moore ready to go, and then you have that we all assume that Philip Daniels and Ethan Onianwa are going to eventually be those starters out there. Maybe then they find themselves in a position where, with a roster of 105 players, Bill, that's just the way you have to do it.
It's going to be a hard sell to bring in a tackle. So they probably will more than likely need to address it via cross-training, and they certainly have guys that can do it. I don't know. I guess I was mildly surprised that those two guys were the first two tackles out there, but if you approach it from the standpoint of who in this room has practiced at left tackle at Ohio State before and right tackle before, it's like the only answers, I guess, are Austin Siereveld and Ian Moore, given how young that position is once you get past those top four guys. So I won't be surprised at all if on Wednesday we see it flip-flopped or they keep moving guys around. Like I'm fully expecting the two transfers to be the two starters at tackle, but I think it's tremendous that Austin Siereveld can provide that versatility for Ohio State. His career has been weird because he didn't play at all as a true freshman either. And it was just like, we showed up in the spring. It's like, oh yeah, he's really good. He's ready to go. He's going to be an important depth piece for us. Like, what? And then in the summer he plays tackle, and I think opened some eyes just maybe to how athletic he is. You look at him, he doesn't necessarily look like a tackle, but if he can move his feet well enough to be one, then that's great. And I think that'll be the question for him, and the question for Tegra is, can you actually operate in those spaces if Ohio State needs you to do it when you're playing, against Penn State or whatever, right? So that'll be the question those guys need to. I don't think they need to answer it in March and April, but come August they probably will. But I think it's an opportunity now, these 15 practices for Ohio State to figure out how urgent of a need that is, or if they can address it in-house with some guys who can cross-train.
Yeah, and you got to think they got a new offensive line coach as well, so he might just want to say, I want to see these guys get up there and see how they work, see how they move.
Well, he doesn't know how the practice at Ohio State's supposed to run, so I mean, he's probably learning it from those guys as well. Ryan Day.
Ian Moore's like, listen, I start.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually
I'm the right tackle.
Who are the starters here? They got their hands up first. So they hit the buzzer.
I think that Ryan Day talked about having the ability to have swing guys in there, the guys that can play inside and out, and I think there's also a situation where you have younger guys like Javon McFadden who might be able to shore you up on the inside as well. So if it allows you to move Austin Siereveld out and solidify that depth at right tackle or left tackle or all the tackles, because you do have more interior guys that are ready to go, then that's a potential benefit to it. So it's really just about making sure that everyone's ready, no matter where they have to play. Because again, the story of 2024 is Donovan Jackson, and it's a guy who for 3 years people on the outside were like, maybe he should play tackle. Maybe he should play tackle. And Ohio State was always like, you know what? He's a guard.
He's our break glass in case of emergency guy. And then they finally had an emergency.
And they had an
They had to
emergency.
break that glass.
And it turned out pretty good. So all things considered. So I think that it's just a lesson learned and an opportunity to say, hey, we can do this in the spring. There's no
100%.
There's no harm in moving these guys around in the spring. Now, if they're doing this August 20th, the week before the Texas game, might have a slightly different reaction.
Unless they have hand, foot, and mouth.
Unless they have hand, foot, and mouth disease.
which
happens.
We've now seen. I think it's interesting, Jay-Z, logistically, not just moving around the guys in cross-training and having them play multiple positions, which you can understand. The other part that makes that challenging for Ohio State this spring is that they're probably not going to put on full pads and just bang helmets together with the defensive line a ton because of the length of the season. And so I wonder how they'll get that evaluation, how they have to decide who's doing what, if they can determine, is Ethan Onianwa ready for this? I mean, it sounds silly to even frame it in that conversation because NFL talent evaluators are saying, well, this guy's a second-round pick if he was going there right now. I think we know that physically he can do it, but when does Tyler Bowen switch that, change the rotation around? How many live reps do you give this person versus that person?
Well, the live reps for the offensive line are huge. I mean, they hate going in shells. They hate not being able to just really get after it because it's not the same feel. So that's going to hamper a little bit of what they're trying to do up there. But I think, in the practices that they're going to have and the situations they're going to be in, can we trust all these guys in that position? Do they know what they're supposed to be doing? Do they know the checks? Do they know, whatever it is they need to know? And are they moving correctly? Are they doing that? And I think that gives you a feel like, all right, yeah, we might have somebody here. I know the live bullets aren't coming right now, but they're always in the right spot. They're always making that right call, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's really hard when you're not going live. And I don't know how much they'll plan on doing that this spring. Probably very little with the way the season went last year. But, that's the only thing you can really go off of is, do they know what they're supposed to be doing, which
It is different though because all these guys had the ability to train and practice with Ohio State for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Already. I mean, it's so different because the transfers, even in the past, it would show up on January 6th and there was no football being played, and so then they have 2 months of
That's very true. Yeah,
workouts and mat drills and all that stuff. And Ryan Day was talking about CJ Donaldson was the scout team running back against Ohio State in the bowl game practices.
Mm-hmm.
So Ethan Anianwa and Philip Daniels, these guys have practiced at Ohio State.
Yeah.
They spent weeks there, and we talked about it prior to the national championship game. Like, I thought that Ohio State was really benefited by having to go against those guys on the scout team. So it's not like they're walking in completely
I guess I didn't think about
blind
those practices.
to what practice is like. But I think it's a reset, and it's saying, hey, this is what our team was last year. These are the guys that are that have been in place, and I still think it's a acclimation period for Anianwa and Daniels.
That's a good name for it.
Yeah, I should.
I think it's maybe this is a straw man argument, but I think there could be some level of concern. Did they miss on the transfer portal guys? Someone might make that argument. I don't know who. I haven't been paying.
I'm sure someone will make that argument today.
They're like, it's bad. Oh, well, Austin Siereveld and Ian Moore are out there. I would say, well, that's a good sign for the depth of that room. Like, if Tyler Bowen, Ryan Day, Brian Hartline think enough that they could start practice when everyone is watching, and yes, they did not have full pads on, Jay-Z. They need to go live.
And Ryan Day said they wouldn't win a game.
Again, I think I would argue against that fact. I think Ohio State will win games.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I bet they win one.
I bet they win at least one.
I just think I'm going to take the over on the one.
I'm just saying, you're saying like he's confident in these guys, but then he ends practice saying, if that's the team, we're never going to win a game again. So,
yeah.
Well, that's coach speak.
Oh.
I'm trying to light a fire after the first practice.
Whoa. Are you suggesting, sir, that sometimes coaches say things that aren't necessarily true in order?
He also said it like super tongue-in-cheek about his interactions with other coaches while taking RJ on recruiting visits.
Yeah,
it wasn't like he walked up to the podium and slammed his fist down and said,
at the risk
this
of
is
like,
terrible.
Well, one of those visits.
Can't believe I signed that extension.
Yeah.
One of those visits was to Los Angeles for the EA Sports shoot and a UCLA practice. And to be fair, UCLA may not win a game. So that's true. That might be an accurate assessment.
I was just going to say, I don't think he wanted to call out the team that he was visiting.
But we all know that he was there.
With
I'm sorry.
With the Clemson, too.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what he thought.
He's been to Clemson each of the last 2 years. Yeah. He's taken RJ there a couple times. Somebody crystal ball RJ Day to Clemson.
Or think about crystal balling.
You should think about crystal balling him to Clemson.
Anyway, I guess my point was that shouldn't be a day, especially because it's day one, a cause for any kind of concern. And in fact, I would view it more as maybe they feel there is better depth at tackle than we've potentially given them credit for. Now, maybe not to the normal scholarship level, not number of bodies, maybe just not desperation that we would have seen like in last November.
Nothing about what we saw was concerning to me.
Yeah.
Those guys have college film at Rice and Minnesota. I think they're pretty good players.
What do you think college coaches do when Ryan Day comes in with his son? Do they just like give the whole spiel of how they do things at that university while dad's sitting there?
You have to, right? Like,
I guess.
He said that
that'd be very interesting, I think.
Ryan said that he like tries to remove himself from the practice part, so it's not.
Yeah, so you're not like watching film with them, hearing how they're coaching their guys,
or viewed as an unfair advantage that you get to just pop in on people's practice and see what they're doing. And he should do that. He should take RJ to Nebraska just for fun and see like what Matt Rule would do to him. Like I think just because he's very worried about it. Yeah. Anyway, but
I was just curious. Yeah, I was like,
but he's having conversations with coaching staffs, and like they're gonna. I don't know why they would adjust their sales pitch based on. He is still a father.
Yeah. But they might have to play him one day.
That's true.
You don't ever want to give a little nugget away.
I don't know. What have you thought? What's RJ's recruiting ranking doing right now, Berm?
Standing still.
Okay.
Big year coming up. Junior year is a big year. Junior year is a big year for a high school quarterback. So he's gotten a lot bigger. He's gotten a lot better.
Anyway, sorry, I got us off track.
He's working with Brad Mandler, who's worked with Drew Aller and a lot of the other guys in Ohio, Ryan Montgomery in the last few years. So I'm actually somewhat surprised. Ryan.
So he's going to go to Penn State.
Well, no, I mean, I'm actually surprised. It's not a knock on Brad, who does really good work, but I'm surprised that Ryan Day is like saying, okay, go ahead and work with my son, to be honest, but maybe he just doesn't have time to do it. We're getting
kids never listen to their parents anyways. You got to get another coach.
You need an outside set of eyes.
Yeah, you need an outside set of eyes on that.
Do you think, Bill, that if Austin Siereveld were okay with it and just was competing for a starting job at left tackle, and you said we're comfortable, we want Luke Integra as our guards, and this is the best way to solidify tackle depth moving forward, which has been concern number one, I think, for most people is tackle depth. Can you broach that topic with Austin Siereveld and say, hey, man, we know last year you split time, you gave us, but we need you to do that again?
I'm going to jump in. Can I?
Please do.
I think there was something that Ryan Day said on Monday that is directly meaningful to this conversation, which is that he said that the sixth guy needs to be able to play multiple positions. And so if Austin Siereveld is their best swing guard or tackle, that's a different maybe conversation, different dynamic to have with that person rather than like you have to go to tackle and stay at tackle. And I think maybe he can do enough work that there could be games where he potentially plays both of those spots early, maybe not in the opener.
And because they showed last year they were willing to rotate offensive linemen, maybe that makes that conversation easier if you're Austin Siereveld.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to get to the point too. It would depend on, I guess, Luke Montgomery's comfort level playing center. If Austin Siereveld is the next guy into the game, no matter what. So if you need a center, you bump Luke inside. If you need a guard, obviously it's Austin. You need a tackle, it's Austin. They could get to that. They were kind of in that position with like Billy Price and Pat Elflein many years ago. I think that's probably best case scenario. Like, and it's not to write off Josh Padilla necessarily because he was with the center with the twos and they were going through stuff on Monday. So like I think there's value in being that guy if you're Austin Siereveld. Because NFL teams like watch your practice film too, right? So if you can show them tackle and guard stuff, that's great. I would imagine as we get closer to the season, maybe he'll be doing less tackle stuff because I still think at the moment that we'll see some rotation at, I don't know if it'll be both guard spots or just right guard with Tegra, but I think Austin Sierreveld's going to play. I think he kind of earned that last year with what he did. And honestly, maybe even earning it more if he's willing to play tackle right now. So I don't think he'll like rotate at tackle. I don't think that's a spot where you want to roll a bunch of guys through, but they have like a plan. They've shown they can work at guard, so I think that'll continue. And in the meantime, all Austin Sierreveld's doing is making himself incredibly valuable to the team.
Yeah, I think that's right. JZ, I kind of glossed over it in the first half of the show. Like, what player position group do you think, especially now we have one day and a level of conversation post practice to go off of? Like, has anything changed for you with where you're looking this spring?
I mean, I like the offensive line talk, of course, but I mean, I think that having that interior kind of solidified makes things a little bit easier, and you think you have the outside kind of solidified. So I was, on my way here, I was thinking, Tyleek's a big guy to lose in the middle of that defensive line.
Yeah.
I know we have guys who are going to be starters there, but you're going to need to rotate. You're going to need to keep guys fresh, long season, all that good stuff. So how the young guys there, kind of coming up and, how we feeling about them? CJ, is he going to be a one play every 4 plays, or is he going to be somebody that they feel that they can leave out there for a full series and, set that edge and do what he needs to do, or is he just going to be a pass rusher? So I think the defensive line, what Larry's going to do with those guys is, something to keep an eye on here in the spring. Now, same thing we talked about with offensive line, no live bullets, not a lot of live bullets anyways. It's different for those defensive linemen. So, it's going to maybe be a little bit harder to tell, but, I think that's an area where, we had that last year to plug in the middle and, to have that and to be able to rotate and keep guys fresh and still have that kind of production would be huge. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
Ryan Day mentioned it, 10 days ago, brought up Hero Canoe by name and his departure. I think that was really reinforced on Monday morning. It's like, okay, Tywone Malone, and here you go. You're going to have to be ready. Will Smith was out there getting some reps in the looked like with the twos against the cans. So, like, that's what does that look like for them? I think there's near certainty that Caden McDonald and Edric Houston are going to give Ohio State what they need from the frontline guys. What step forward over the next 14 practices for those two? It's been a couple of years for Tywone Malone. Seen some flashes. Will Smith's dealt with injuries at time, right, in the 2 years here, trying to get on the field. They're going to have to find the next wave at defensive tackle. If it's not an outside addition after April 12th, then these practices are critical for those guys. And again, they're going to be doing it without a ton of padded practices and opportunities to go live. And I don't know what that looks like.
I think as we talked about a lot of things with this team leading in the spring ball, I think I've come around to the thought that Tywone Malone, Will Smith Jr., and Jason Moore probably are like the three most important non-quarterbacks in the spring. Like
to see who emerges from that group,
or like more than one, hopefully,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you're Ohio, like you need more than 3 defensive tackles. I think they get through the season that Ohio State wants to get through. And like I honestly found it like a little disappointing that Jason Moore didn't play more last year, based off what we were saying about him this time last year and how.
We were saying, but what coaches?
But no,
were saying.
we're taking the cue from the coaches. He just seemed really excited about where he was, and then it never amounted to much. So like that needs to hit. I think
He's a big boy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's
Yeah,
put on some weight. Like he's just kind of grown into a defensive
Yeah,
tackle body. You look at like when you watch a defensive lineman, he definitely stands out to you, especially among the tackles. Because even like Will Smith is like kind of just getting going, right? He had those injuries, and now he's, I think, just starting to kind of push for real playing time. Like Jason Moore and Tywone Malone, like need to be ready to go. I think like this is as crucial of a spring for like those two guys like that I can recall for any players over the last few years. Like they need to hit.
I mean, you build your offense and your defense from the inside out, right? So on offense, you're replacing Seth McLaughlin, you're replacing Will Howard, you're replacing both your running backs. You can look at that and from an argument's sake, say that's much harder to replace all that than what they're trying to replace on defense. Because I think, as you mentioned, Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, like at the front of the line, I think those two, and then you still have Sonny Styles and you still have Caleb Downs, like your defense, you can feel okay, but somebody has to be ready behind them.
Yep.
And I don't, even though Edric and Caden are inexperienced, I think you also feel confident, like you know what those guys are, what they can be when they have full-time reps. So Jarquez Carter is one that I think is worth watching as far as the true freshman goes, as someone who can push. But it's got to be Jason Moore, Tywone Malone, and Will Smith. Like if two of those three guys don't emerge as viable, like regular players for Ohio State this spring, then I don't know how you go about finding starters in the transfer portal in April, but I think you might have to.
Oregon got Derek Harmon, I think, after the second one.
Well, that's because he went into the portal in the first time around and stuck with Michigan State and then went in the second time.
It's a little text message here, phone call there.
Are you saying? Wait a second, sir.
Are you saying?
Are you suggesting
Coach speak and tampering are things?
Wait
oh
a second.
My gosh, that's a lot of news.
Groundbreaking stuff here.
Yeah, you know what else is groundbreaking? Cheesy bacon wedges.
Cheesy bacon wedges on Tuesdays for $3.
If you have a choice, and you do, because this is America, damn it, and you have a choice. If you have an opportunity to walk into a Roosters restaurant this week, and I don't even care if it's Tuesday. Tuesday, you get them for $3. But any other day of the week, if you're getting
they're worth whatever you're going to pay for.
If you're getting a cheesy bacon appetizer, it absolutely has to be the wedges. And this is not to slight the curly, okay?
Oh, this is a much better vessel.
It is.
Much,
yeah. It's a 5-star delivery device.
Yeah, this is how they were supposed to be. When somebody in a lab somewhere thought putting cheese and bacon together with a potato, this is how they thought to do it. And this is the right way. Took a minute. Some people like tots. No! Get those tots out of here. They crumble under the weight of this cheese.
They don't sustain.
They
you
cannot
gotta pick them
hold
up. They break in half.
The,
you pick
the
up
curly. Oh, no. Not the curly, but the wedge.
Built
Look
different.
to the wedgie.
Built different. Thanks to Roosters.
Built tough.
And the whole team at Henderson, they are celebrating. They've got the green shirts on. They've got some 4-leaf clover necklaces. It's great. Enjoy your St. Patrick's Day celebration at a Roosters as well. And then set the table for Tuesday. Just come back and get the wedges tomorrow. And spend all week here, honestly, because the NCAA tournament, great place to come hang out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to watch some college basketball. On Wednesday, we're going to be back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center.
Don't have to bother trying to watch Ohio State.
Makes it easier.
Makes it easier. You can really just dive into the full comprehensive experience of the tournament.
And we can just keep our focus on football, as we always do, with a fun, casual conversation at a fun, casual joint. Thanks to Nicole and that team here at Roosters. Thanks to Justin Zwick, Jeremy Birmingham, and Bill Landis. I am Austin Ward. Have a great week, folks. We'll be back in here next Monday. We'll see you.